Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Telecom, the challenges and the opportunities that lie in India. To know a little bit more in depth about what ails the telecom industry in India, we join Sunil Jain, the editor of Financial Express. Sunil, welcome to PGurus channel.
Hi Sri, good to be here. Thank you.
Sunil, I really thank you for finding the time on a busy Thursday to come on this hangout with me. So Sunil, perhaps I just want to set the context for you. What is happening in India is also playing out in the United States. And I'll tell you the story from the United States side. There are four major carriers: AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and Sprint. Now, in that order, that's how the size of the market of these four carriers is. Number 3 and number 4 are finding it difficult to compete with number 1 and number 2, and they are also merging. T-Mobile is merging with Sprint to come up with a better way to compete with number 1, which is AT&T, and number 2, which is Verizon. Now, I think India is going through a similar challenge, isn't it?
Well, in a sense, it would look like it's exactly what's happening in the US or other countries. I think there's one difference. You're obviously right that when markets mature, there is a shakeout and things like that happen.
Right.
I think one difference that we have in India, which I think is different, is that a large part of the telecom sickness today is really due to, of course, we know that when Jio came in with its predatory pricing, that was a problem. But long before Jio came into this pricing model, most industries were in bad shape anyway. And the reason for that is very simple. The government takes away about 30% of the telecom industry's top line by way of its regulatory dues.
I see.
I don't think any industry in the world can afford to work if 30% of your top line is taken away by the government. Now there was a reason for taking a lot away in the beginning was that from 99, 2000 onward, the government used to give spectrum almost free. So when you don't pay for the spectrum, then you say, okay, I'm going to take an EMI. So you're not paying for your house, you're paying an EMI to HDFC Bank, that's fine. Now what's happening is from 2010, because of the Supreme Court case, the government started charging for the spectrum and charging an arm and a leg. The auctions were designed in such a way that you actually paid a lot of money. So I think those auctions were unfair, but the long and short of it was that companies started paying a lot of money for the spectrum. So when you pay a lot of money for the spectrum, then for the government to say that I will also charge you that EMI, that's completely unfair. So, so the companies have paid, for example, in some auctions, they've paid 1 lakh crore, in a particular auction in a particular year for the spectrum. And then they pay 13% of their annual revenues on top of that, as a license fee spectrum usage charge. That's completely unfair. So I think the difference between India and America was that the government levies were extortionate. And here I just want to get into, there's another additional factor here, which is that, the really crippling blow that the industry suffered a few weeks ago or a couple of weeks ago was the Supreme Court saying that you've got to pay some dues of 1,33,000 crore rupees. This is basically called the adjusted gross revenue. So it's a complicated thing, but the short point is that these dues were given on were due. I mean, the industry was due to pay this 1,33,000 crores because of the definition of what is important here is that had the government in 2010 decided that there'll be no spectrum fee or license fee because we are charging for the spectrum anyway, then this whole case of 1,33,000 crore would have got reduced to a 5 or 10 or 15,000 crore issue here, which is completely easily handleable.
Correct.
So when the government of India, we had the telecom minister Ravi Shankar Prasad saying that the company should have known that there was a problem, they should have provided for this. He is right in one level, but what he's missing out is the crucial factor that if in 2010, of course, that time you had the Manmohan Singh government, not this one. If in 2010 the government had scrapped the license fee and the spectrum usage charge, which they should have, this case would not be there at all. So actually, I've maintained that the AGR case, which is the current reason for the telecom problem, this is criminal neglect on the part of first Dr. Manmohan Singh and then Narendra Modi. You've got a government saying that we want to attract investment, whether it's foreign or Indian. And you've got a fantastic industry that's doing very well till a few years ago. And you're virtually seeing that industry shutting down. I mean, I think that's really a bad advertisement for the government. The other issue is that, you talked about AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and Sprint. I think globally, what every regulator hopes for is actually to stimulate competition. Because when you've got competition, then you don't need to worry about predatory pricing, collusion, oligopoly and stuff like that.
Right.
So we had that. That is what, Mr. Vajpayee's telecom policy of 99 had achieved. We had a lot of competition. So there's very little collusion happening. Now, thanks to Mr. Modi's benign neglect, the competition has gone away. So what's going to happen now is that every time there's a price hike, people are going to wonder, okay, so did Reliance and Bharti and Vodafone Idea, if it survives, did these three companies get together and collude? Just the other day, Vodafone put out a press release saying that we're going to be hiking our prices because we can't survive like this. Within an hour or so of that, Bharti Airtel put out a press release saying we're going to be hiking our prices. Within an hour or so of that, Reliance Jio put out a press release saying we may be hiking our prices. And that stinks of collusion. So, so we're actually setting ourselves up for a regime in which either the regulator has to keep monitoring these guys every second of the day, or the regulator turns a blind eye, in which case the consumers feel we're being ripped off. So I think it's a very unhappy situation to be in.
Well, from what I am hearing, there needs to be a holistic solution that takes into account what was the initial conditions and then the operating conditions. And I just want to make absolutely sure the percentage you said is it 1-3 or 3-0?
No, they're two numbers. So one, when you look at the license fee and the spectrum usage charge, that is 1-3.
Okay.
But apart from that 1-3, you're also paying a certain amount for the spectrum. So you pay, let's say, 1 lakh crore for the spectrum.
Right.
You don't pay it upfront. You pay it in over 20 years in equal installments. So you need to add that as well. When you add that, then you get 3-0.
I see.
It's 1-3 and 3-0. You heard both, and they're both correct.
Because this is very fascinating discussion that we are having. Now, where is BSNL in this mix?
Well, actually, BSNL is nowhere, because what's happened is that you had these companies, BSNL and MTNL,
right,
which were very, very sick. They've been making losses for a long time,
right?
Basically and their revenues have shrunk. So essentially, their wage bills were about 80 to 100% of their turnover.
Okay, so whatever they're making, they're paying off. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So these companies didn't have a hope in hell of surviving.
Right.
So the government said, okay, we're going to merge the two, because essentially no prime minister wants to be the person who got rid of 1.6 lakh people.
Right.
So they've got into this VRS, and they claim they've got about 70,000-80,000 people who already taken the VRS, which is good news. But the problem really is that, if you're left now with, let's say, 60,000 people, are you going to be able to, turn out a product which is going to make you very, very competitive? Now, the thing here is that, so Ravi Shankar Prasad announced yesterday that it would take 24 months for BSNL MTNL's merger to be completed. So, you're talking about a period in which Reliance state-owned player, which will take at least 2 years history of mergers the world over. In the private sector, mergers typically don't always work.
Correct.
In India, we had Air India and Indian Airlines with merged, and even till date, they haven't really merged, which is why we got the problem we have. So I think, if you look at BSNL, MTNL, they're essentially going to be a drain on people like me who just have to pay more taxes to make sure that, that their debts and stuff like that are paid off. So, I mean, that's really bad news, in the sense that you've got the government saying that we need more competition, we need more privatization. They're actually selling BSNL. They're looking at selling Air India. And then suddenly they put out a huge package, 80,000 crores or something like that for BSNL, MTNL. If they had just lowered their license fees and the 30 and 13 part, you would have a very viable telecom industry in India. So, I mean, it's very unfortunate what they've done here.
Unfortunately, see, the thing is, it's not like the system is weak in one leg. Every leg the system is standing on is weak. And I think therein lies the problem, because the government also needs to keep generating revenue. So they are not willing to let go of the revenues that they are seeing. And I'm just making a guess here, wild guess here. But I think that is the reason why, the government seems to, be intent on trying to collect more by taxes. GST, they thought it'll give them more because more people are supposed to come into the tax brackets and so on and so forth. and based on that, perhaps the government has planned a lot of projects, and now it's kind of scraping the barrel.
I think, this is the classic story of the goose that laid the golden egg. So they've killed the goose. And the problem here was that it makes a lot of sense that if the telecom industry is very healthy, you could keep hiking the 30, 13 number to 40 and 50. Right. It wouldn't make a difference. But the problem really is that over the last few years, we've already seen the government missing its revenue targets from telecom every year. In the last 3 years, for example, there's been no telecom auction because the companies are so cash strapped. So the government's revenues are falling anyway. They're falling because the industry is in bad shape. If Vodafone Idea goes under, and that possibility is still not ruled out, the government stands to lose 200,000 crore rupees. So from the AGR case, I think Vodafone Idea together has to pay about 40 or 50,000 crore rupees they have to pay on account of this AGR. Then I told you that the people bought spectrum and they're paying this over a 20-year period. So when you add the AGR dues of Vodafone Idea and you add this, spectrum auction dues, that adds up to 2 lakh crores for Vodafone Idea itself. So it's not as though, by hiking the rates, the government is doing well, and actually the government is being asked to sacrifice its revenues. All that we're asking the government to do is act like a prudent banker, or like a banya like me, act like a prudent banker and say, we've got a problem. So, why don't we just cut out these unnecessary things? I know that you can't pay me 2 lakh crores. Let me cut this down to 100 or 60 or 60, and you'll pay me this. At least I'll survive. Just to give you perspective here.
Right.
In 1994, India auctioned telecom licenses. Everybody was very gung-ho. They bid lakhs of crores as license fee over a period of time. By 1998, all these companies were bankrupt. Nobody was able to pay their license fees. And, so the government had the option of cancelling their licenses, in which case they would have gone to court. So it would have been one messy, long drawn affair, 20, 30 years. The Vajpayee government said, okay, let's do one thing. Whoever's got a license, just keep it. And we'll convert this fixed license fee that you promised to pay me to a revenue share kind of license fee.
Okay.
Everybody said this guy's mad. He's obviously so corrupt. Because just look at the lakhs of crores that the government is losing. Because, on the one hand, you promised to pay this much, and now suddenly this guy is saying, just pay me X% of your revenue. So I hate to say it, I was one of the guys who said this, that Vajpayee is mad in doing this. But what happened was that after Vajpayee's, NTP 99 formula, the telecom industry just shot through the roof. It did so well that within 2 to 3 years, the government had recouped whatever it was supposed to get under the old method. So, it's that whole thing. You lower taxes and you stimulate the industry, you benefit.
Hasn't the current government done the same thing? I thought I read today or yesterday that they are going to defer the collection by 60,000 crores.
Yeah, what they've done is, this is, so there's this big headline number which the government is very proud to talk about, 42,000 crore rupees of relief to the telecom industry.
Yeah.
You see, all that they've done is, I told you that Vodafone Idea is close to shutting down. So if the government had said that you have to pay it, the government would have lost 200,000 crores. So what they did was they said, the dues that you need to pay me for the next 2 years, the spectrum, dues the auction dues, don't pay that to me for 2 years. So what's happening is that
deferred.
So they've deferred it by 2 years, and that number is 42,000 crores. But it's not as though they said, okay, don't pay me this 42,000 crore and let's forget about it. They said, pay this to me after 2 years. And by the way, since you have not paid me this 42,000 crore rupees, I'm going to charge you an 8 or 9% interest on it every year anyway. So
I see.
If these guys are getting 42,000 crores of quote unquote relief, they're probably paying about 8 or 9,000 crores of interest on this.
Right.
So I just think this is PC Sarkar kind of jugglery at its best. And fortunately for the government, most journalists are illiterate, so most headlines are 42,000 crore relief.
Right, and it also gives viewers a reason to come watch these things in PGurus, because we are going to lay bare the truth. in final one last thing that I want to tell our viewers is, today, and this is ground situation. My take is that if you want to be profitable in telecom, the companies that are staying need to use all-in-one solution, meaning use one physical fiber. Using that fiber, you provide television, internet, and telephone. and over time the telephone will go away. Telephony will become absorbed into the cable network.
That's right. That's right.
Right. So why I say that is the model that is used all over the world today. So
Absolutely.
the chipsets, the electronics is cheap. The only thing you need to do is to lay the fiber. The fiber is a one-time thing, and after that, the last mile you will have a few tweaks to do. At least I'm trying to say that this is how it should be done, so that you can stay in the game. I'll give you another alternative. Google wanted to have 10 gig line, and they said we are going to take a different route and we are going to try it out. They trialed in a smaller city like Kansas City, and it sort of worked. But when they tried to do it in San Jose, which is the 10th largest city in the United States, it failed. And Google has actually given up. They have walked away from the whole experiment. They dug holes. I mean, they put these 10 gig lines, and I don't know what is happening, but Google just said, oh, this is not viable for us, walked away. So, and Google is an extremely profitable company. I would say 75 to 80% profit margin. On their advertising, they're making money hand over fist.
Absolutely.
And even that company said, no, I don't think I can do this thing. It's not viable. So Comcast now is in a very envious position in the sense that every month, I mean, not every month, but every year, I dread the bill because they're going to up a little bit more. Something goes, something comes here. My bills have all been going up. So those who hang out the longer, if you can stay and ride out this storm, there's a lot of money to be made. Comcast is making money hand over fist now.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why, for example, everybody is sort of still bullish on Bharti Airtel, despite all the bloodbath, is that people realize that 3 or 4 guys have gone away anyway,
right.
And now Vodafone Idea is likely to go the same way.
Right.
So essentially, people feel that Bharti doesn't need to be better than Jio. Bharti just needs to be better than Vodafone. And that's good enough, because then you've got a 100% market.
Right.
To carve out between the two of you. But to get your point, I think the model in India, in fact, I think the older telcos like Bharti and Vodafone were actually slow to realize this. They tended to be more pure play telecom players.
Right.
And it's only when Jio came in and Jio said, okay, so I'm going to get my own, movie library. I'm going to give you payment solutions. I'm going to give you that. And they sort of bundle everything together. You pay me $500 a month and then do whatever you want. So I think, that's when people like Bharti started doing the same thing. Bharti also has a, it has a DTH. It has a lot of those services with their bundling together. I think Vodafone here has a bit of a disadvantage. Vodafone globally seems to be a pure play telecom player.
Yes.
They don't even have long distance. So you need to have long distance, international long distance, and things like that. So I'm a bit, I'm not too certain that Vodafone will survive in the long run. But certainly Bharti and Jio are working along the lines that you're talking about.
Right.
And as you said, it's a balance sheet game. Whoever survives, then, makes it up.
Right. But then the thing is, once you get hooked on to Netflix, Amazon, 4K HD viewing, my God, I'm telling you, people will say, okay, I will pay another $200, $300 a month, but I want to be able to see that.
I mean, we thought we were watching a movie and that was fine. Then suddenly there's a HD movie.
Yes.
Which is also good. But when you look at the bandwidth you're consuming, then you just realize, you're just eating it up. So, I mean, this is like the modern opium.
Yes. So interesting times ahead. And I think we have done a little bit of knowledge as well as technology and the business side. I hope that we have such conversations more frequently, Sunil, because the last one that we had was absolutely marvelous. There were a lot of good comments. They said that, wow, we really liked listening to Sunil. So Sunil, I really, really am appreciative of your faith and trust in me asking the right questions for you to share your thoughts to our viewers.
Thank you so much. I love being here, even the last time and this time. And I'm sure we'll have a lot more of these in the future. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you very much. And viewers, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And also, if you can donate, it'll be great. Thank you very much. And thanks, Sunil.
Thank you.